last video is upon us.
We talking about them. I'm gonna upload a new video every day of Pride Month.
God loves while you make plans.
Obviously that did not work out. I am so sorry to be getting back to you guys so late. I know it's like, what, June 8th? 9? I don't even know where I am. No, I mentioned in an earlier video that we were going to be moving soon. Those plans kind of got pushed like way farther ahead because we have neighbors that are psychotic. Like psychotic as in like waving a gun around in broad daylight. That's not what this video is about. Let's talk about better things, happier things, the things I promised you people. There's one more video that I really wanted to do before we tackled the whole Pride Month thing, and I know that everything's kind of gotten pushed way back now because I can't make plans. But I tried to make a video earlier about straight pride, and anybody who's of the LGBT community can imagine how well that went. That ended up being like an almost hour-long video, and I wasn't able to upload it. And then I got upset during the video because I was ranting, and then I got upset because I couldn't upload the video, and it was just a bad day. So, we're going to be doing a better video here today. We're going to be talking about people that are very important to us. At least I see them as people. And anybody who has pets, I know that you see them the same way. They're family. And with me on this grand adventure of telling you about our pets is my lovely spouse. We have a zoo. We have always kind of just decided that that's what we were going to do, although most of our pets were not conscious decisions, if that makes sense. In fact, all of them except 2 were accidents. Not crazy. We don't have like 80 animals hiding in our apartment or anything like that. Right now we are at the grand total of 6, which I think is a pretty okay number. I do not think that you should have any more animals than what you're able to upkeep with. You know, the animal's health should always be very important. You know, the animal's happiness should always be very important. As of late, I've already been kind of feeling guilty because I don't feel like we're able to get our animals the very best where we are right here because, you know, like I said, we have some kind of crazy neighbors and it's kind of like stressful to go outside sometimes. So, for example, like we have a dog, as you saw in the intro. She doesn't get to go outside and play very much, and that's something that we hope to change soon because, you know, she's a, well, we'll get into what she is in a little bit. In fact, why don't we go ahead and do that now? This is Penelope Ariel, although we affectionately call her Penny. She's a Jack Russell Blue Heeler mix. She's about 5 years old, and she's Satan incarnate. Penny was one of the planned pets, kind of. We walked into a pet store at the mall, which, bad idea, and they had a day where like, hey, if you pay like a couple dollars, you can play with a puppy, and all the money goes towards, you know, helping other animals. Okay, you want to go down? Go down. Anyway, you know, and we saw, she was the first dog we saw. She had a lot of really great energy. She was playing with her cage mate, and we're like, why don't we get that one out? She's a Jack Russell Blue Heeler, like I said, and so she had lots of energy. She was running around. It was Jovi and I and my ex at the time. You know, we were having a lot of fun just, you know, playing with her. So much fun that an hour later we still had the dog out of the kennel. And it ended up becoming pretty obvious that, like, we're all kind of exchanging glances like, oh God, it's happening, isn't it? Like, we're under her spell kind of thing, you know? And this sales clerk came up and was like, are you guys almost done? And I looked up and I'm like, actually, how much is she? And her attitude completely changed. Like, oh, well, actually, she's this price, and we have this, like, sale program where you can, like, pay in monthly payments and whatever. We decided to go for it. We all looked at each other. We all had, you know, stable enough jobs that we could afford to buy a dog. I'd been wanting to buy a dog anyway, because I really love dogs. And we put her back in the cage with her cage mate while we did the paperwork processing, and she screamed for, like, 20 minutes. Like, she was just not having it. She's like, get me out of here! Take me home! She's a very spoiled dog, but we love her very much. This handsome boy is sick right now, unfortunately. But we have some medicine we've been giving him, and he's on the way to recovery. He just has a little upper respiratory infection, but he'll be alright in a few days, I think. His name is Boucharl. He's about 5 years old as well, and he was one of the accidental ones. I had actually just gotten a kitten from one of Jovi's mom's coworkers that the woman was not very well informed on kittens and handed me one at like 3 weeks old. And me being, younger at that time, I didn't realize that the kitten was too young to be away from its mother, and he unfortunately passed away. His name was Boulder, and I loved him a lot. About 2 weeks after Boulder passed away, I'd been walking home. I was frustrated that day about something. So I'd gone on a walk by myself, and I'm walking home, and you know that feeling you get when it's like, I'm not alone out here? Kind of what I was getting. I was getting that very much like, I'm being watched right now. But I turned around, and there was nobody there that I could see. And then I happened to look down, and there's this fat gray and white kitten following me around. So you heard the word fat. He's like, excuse you? And I look down at him. He's mad.
I know, he's like...
So, again, I was like, where did this kitten come from? And I'm kind of looking around for like a mom. I'm looking around for litter mates because he couldn't have been more than a couple weeks old, but older than Boulder. And he followed me all the way home, like 3 blocks. He just followed me like he was on a mission. And when I got to the door, I looked around. I looked down at him. I looked upstairs. Thought about how I was going to explain it to my mother at the time. And went, this is going to be a thing, isn't it? Meow.
I remember the first time I came over too. It had probably been about a week, and I'd received maybe only like 1 picture from Lyrics End before I came over to visit. And I was like, okay, let's see the new little Rugrat. Let's see, what he looks like, who he is. And I knew his name was Boo by that point. They had already named him Boo. And I walk in the door, and he couldn't have been, super tiny. And he marches straight up this little purposeful little gate. And then he sits down right in front of me as I open the door. And he puts up a paw, and he looks at me. And he just gives this very dignified little meow. And then we've been inseparable ever since.
He's more of Jovi's cat than mine. For some reason, the two of them just, struck it off right away. And it's not that he hates me. It's just that, you can tell, when Jovi's not in the room, he calls for them, purposefully calls for them. And so, you know that they're kind of inseparable. I'm going to go a little bit out of order for this one because I'm doing all of our bigger pets first. You've seen him in previous videos. He's very out there. He likes to have a presence to himself. I'd say about 3 weeks ago now, my neighbors, who are the ones that ironically causing the problems for us and why we're moving, they live downstairs from us right now. And we were going to go leave for the day. We were going to go to work. And they approached us. They're like, oh, man, we found this kitten in the alleyway last night. We found them, in the trash. They got attacked by a dog, all this. And they went inside and they got him. Little ball fluff. And, we saw him and it was like, okay, they got a kitten. No big deal, whatever. I don't personally feel like they should own animals because they can't take care of themselves. But that's not my place to judge. But I ended up being right. For a week, we listened to this meowing downstairs, and the kitten was obviously young enough that I was like, they need to get him formula, he's a baby. And every day, for hours on end, meow, 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 and I'm like, kittens don't just meow for no reason. It's kind of like human babies. They don't cry for no reason. They want something from you. And for me, I clearly knew, this kitten needs food. It wants to be fed. I wanted food. About 2 weeks ago now, I noticed one night after a shower that the meowing sounded louder than it had been when it was downstairs. And we had our windows open, and it was raining and 40 degrees outside. So I decided, something about this seems odd. So when we took Penny down for a walk, we decided to investigate the sound of meowing. And it led us to back behind our apartments, to the garbage, where we found the kitten. Outside, in the rain, in the cold, in the trash. Between both of us crying multiple times about the fact that somebody has the heart to do that, we realized that we couldn't leave him out there. He was small and he was very sick at the time. He had the same upper respiratory infection that Boo has now. Unfortunately, we didn't keep them far enough apart and they both got sick at the same time, but we were able to go to the vet thanks to some very dear friends of mine who I hope watch these videos and realize how appreciative we are and that they donated money and whatnot to keep this little guy going. He looks ages better than he did, you know, when we first brought him in. When we first brought him in, he was this trembling, shaking, you know, I didn't think he was going to make it through the first night when we got him. And then he surprised me. He had energy. He wanted to eat. He had a will to keep going. And so I was like, well, I can't give up on him then. Because we already had 5 animals, we both looked at each other and went, you know, maybe the best option is to put him in a shelter. Maybe the best option is to give him up and give him to somebody that, you know, can afford a vet visit, you know, without having to ask friends for help. But a lot of the shelters in the area, you know, when we asked around and whatnot, they either were kill shelters, which I wasn't going to risk based on the fact that he was already sick. They were at maximum capacity and were like, well, can you foster? Or they outright were like, we can't take cats right now. Like, there's just nothing we can do for you. We're sorry. So he was very unplanned, but we are very blessed because he's been a ball full of joy. And he gets along really well with all of our other animals. And he has been affectionately been named Grizzly since that. Because when we found him, he was in pretty grizzly shape. And he now sleeps like a bear soundly every night because he knows that he's loved.